talk show host, and that is a long time. The Oakland Coliseum has been an issue that Major League Baseball has known they've got to address. As of right now, what is the Coliseum issue?
Well, there are plenty of issues with the Coliseum, from sewage to it does have BART access, but there are plenty of issues with the building itself. It's more than 50 years old. It's past its prime. If you're asking about what's the next step,
Yes.
are the A's going to be able to get a ballpark? They're hoping to get a ballpark at what's known here as Howard Terminal, right by Jack London Square, right along San Francisco Bay. There are a lot of hoops for which they've got to jump through, and they've gotten through a couple already. They have made some progress, but is it going to happen? I think it's 50-50 right now whether that ballpark eventually gets built at Howard Terminal.
Steve, is there a vote, a referendum, something like that ultimately will decide it?
Well, they're now kind of going through governmental processes. There was an issue last week where I believe an Oakland City councilman wanted to put a non-binding vote in November to the citizens of Oakland, and that was voted down. And the A's were happy that was voted down, because even though it was non-binding, they were afraid that there would not be the 50.1% of Oakland citizens who would go for it. And their argument, it certainly has some legitimacy, is that that the public still doesn't know all the benefits beyond the ballpark. What the Howard Terminal project is not solely a ballpark. It's something similar to, say, what the Braves did in their ballpark in suburban Atlanta. It's a ballpark plus retail and housing and all kinds of things. So the A's and a lot of the leaders in Oakland believe that there are more benefits beyond the ballpark, but I think they were probably justifiably afraid that if it went to a public vote, even just solely as a referendum, nothing binding, that it would not look good for the project. So the A's got a break last week when that was tabled, and there will not be, at least in the short term, a public vote on it.
As you can imagine, people in Nashville are interested in the Oakland situation. They're interested in the Tampa Bay situation. So I'm going to throw a couple of dumb questions out there.
I can give you good dumb answers. I'm very good at that.
Beautiful. Here we go. So when Nashville was the A's AAA affiliate, and you had Matt Chapman and Chad Pinder and Chris Bassett and Matt Olson and a slew of really good prospects, was there ever a moment where Oakland said, wait a minute, this is a better city, this is a better situation, let's look at Nashville? Did that ever happen?
As far as I can tell, certainly not publicly. I think that, there has been talk on and off for years. The two cities around here, fairly close to the Bay Area, the A's are now acknowledging their parallel paths with Las Vegas. They've acknowledged they've made inquiries about trying to build a ballpark in Las Vegas, as they're still trying to get the Howard Terminal project built. One thing I should add that we haven't discussed yet is there was a time when the A's were considering building along land right at the Oakland Coliseum, which in a lot of ways would be easier. It wouldn't necessarily be as pretty as the ballpark the Giants have on the water. And it might not have all the amenities and the surrounding stuff that Howard Terminal in its best form would, but it probably would be easier to get done. But the A's have decided they don't want to do that. Anyway, so there has been talk about Las Vegas. There has been talk over the years, nothing specific, but there has been talk about Sacramento, which is only 90 minutes from the Bay Area. It's certainly not as big a market, but has better summer weather, at least warmer summer weather. So those would be the two main cities, and a third one way on the outside would be Portland. But there really has not been, at least to my knowledge, a lot of Bay Area talk about the A's moving to Nashville.
Let's go with the Vegas thing for a minute. The fact that the Raiders are now there, does that make it easier or harder for the A's if that's the direction they want to go?
You said you're going to ask dumb questions. I think that's a very good question. I could give you probably 2 or 3 reasons why it makes it easier and 2 or 3 reasons why it makes it tougher. I think obviously it does make it easier in that, somebody's done it before, and not only are the Raiders there, but the Golden Knights. So you would think that the area has some experience now in dealing with major league franchises. The flip side of that, the harder part, I think, one is there's probably some enmity built in the Bay Area certainly in the East Bay towards Las Vegas. Plus, as Vegas has all kinds of dollars, as we all know, but if it's already spending on the Raiders and it's already spending on the Golden Knights, is there enough money for an 81 game season to go for the A's? And smarter people than that, or smarter people than I, would be better to ask than I on that one. But it's a good question. I really don't know the answer.
Yeah, I guess I'm fishing around because I'm trying to figure out where all this is headed. And I've never thought the A's to Nashville, but has Major League Baseball got a little bit of a gentleman's agreement with Oakland that says, yeah, there may be a scenario where you may have to move, but it will be in the West because geographically, with the divisions that we have, that's the way it has to be?
Well, I don't know about gentlemen's agreements, but I do know that Major League Baseball allowed the A's to explore Las Vegas. That was done sometime last year. So whether there's another city involved, that I couldn't tell you. But Major League Baseball has given the okay for the A's to explore Las Vegas.
Are you surprised that Tampa has not requested the same thing?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, again, I'm certainly not privy to all the specifics in the Tampa Bay market, but you would think at some point Tampa would, for want of a better term, leverage. Now, Tampa did have the plan to try to split its games between Montreal and Tampa, which I believe, I know got shot down, but that was at least one plausible scenario beyond the norm. But is there another scenario in which Major League Baseball would give Tampa the okay to go elsewhere? I would assume so, but I can't say that definitively right now.
I'm going to ask you one last thing, and then
Sure.
and then we'll run from there. Would I be right in saying that if there were something that were going to happen in my city where Major League Baseball were going to come here, that an owner better have more than $1 billion? Would that be close?
I'm not an economist. I don't play one on TV. That certainly sounds right. I'm between the cost of the franchise, whether it's a relocation fee, if it's a current team, or an expansion fee to the other 30 owners. That certainly sounds like it makes sense to me.
Steve, thank you so much for the visit. I'm sorry that it got delayed a few minutes, but on our end, it was well worth it.
Billy, I appreciate it. Look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Steve.